Some of you will remember Dr. Quinn, Medicine Woman, TV show that ran in the 1990s. A great show. It featured a young female doctor educated in Boston who went out west to Colorado to conquer the West. And there she learned a lot of medicine from natives. For example, she learned about the bark of the willow tree to relieve aches and fevers. Natives knew about this long before Edward Stone in England in the 1700s discovered the use of the willow bark. Natives knew a lot about medicine. Over the years, they learned that the use of herbs such as sage, which they used in their ceremonies for purification processes, actually had physiological effects. But the native medicine was actually hijacked by the so-called traveling medicine shows that crisscrossed the country in the late 1800s and the early 1900s. There would be jugglers and magicians and singers and comedians who would gather a crowd and then introduce the professor or the doctor, who was neither a professor nor a doctor, who would come and make a spiel for the product that they were selling. The most famous one was the Kickapoo Medicine Company. And they were very popular. They hired natives to sort of put on little acts during the show who were neither Kickapoo, although they were natives, but not Kickapoo. I guess they chose Kickapoo, which is a real tribe, because the name sounded very interesting. And then the pitchman would come on and talk about how natives knew secrets that were not known by the white man, but now for the first time it was made available. They hired Buffalo Bill Cody to be a spokesperson who would say that the Indian, and in those days Indian was a perfectly acceptable term, the Indian would never be without his blanket, his bow and arrow, or his sagwa. Well, Indians were always without their sagwa, because it was a concoction that was made up by two hucksters who founded the Kickapoo Company. It had no therapeutic value whatsoever, but it sold hundreds and hundreds of bottles. They made a fortune off of sagwa. In any case, we know that there was legitimacy to a lot of native medicine. For example, the willow bark. It contains a compound called salicin, which in the body breaks down and forms salicylic acid, which is a pain reliever, but it is also a stomach irritant. And it was salicylic acid that in the late 1800s, in 1898, Albert Hofmann in Germany, working for the Bayer company, took salicylic acid and converted it into acetylsalicylic acid, which of course we know is aspirin, which was not as irritating to the stomach. So while Dr. Quinn learned about the willow bark from the Cheyenne, I think if she were around today, she would rather choose aspirin.